This is Scott Drake speaking of justice, and you're watching the Legal Broadcast Network. The Humane Society of the United States has filed a lawsuit last week against 6 major retailers and fashion designers, alleging they falsely advertise and label fur garments. The suit claims that Dillard's, Lord & Taylor, Macy's, and Neiman Marcus and Saks Fifth Avenue, and designer Andrew Marc misrepresent fur products by labeling and marketing them as faux fur when they're actually real fur, and by advertising and labeling products as common raccoon, fox, or rabbit fur when they're really made from raccoon dog, a canine species from Asia. My guest is the General Counsel and founder of the Animal Legal Defense Fund, Joyce Tischler. Joyce, welcome.
Thank you.
First, I want to find out about your organization. What's the Animal Legal Defense Fund?
Animal Legal Defense Fund is a litigation organization that works to protect the lives and interests of animals.
What inspired you to form this organization?
Well, all of my life I've cared about animals, and there was nothing like this when I graduated from law school in 1977, and we decided that animals deserve lawyers.
Well, in this case, in this lawsuit, we're talking about, I guess, in one sense, it's sort of a reverse. It's actual, the products are labeled faux fur, but it's actual real fur. And you're talking about some major retailers here. Let's talk a little bit about the lawsuit and how it started.
Sure. There is a set of consumers who care about the cruelty involved in raising fur and don't wish to wear fur, but like the look of it, and would like to have what's called faux or synthetic fur, fur that is not taken from live animals, and they are willing to pay for that. And in response to that, Andrew Marc, Dillard's, Lord & Taylor, Macy's, Neiman Marcus, and others are labeling their products so that the consumer can look at them and say, okay, this is faux fur, I will purchase this. The consumer would not have purchased that if it were made from real fur. The problem is that they're getting very sloppy, or perhaps it's intentional, I don't know, in both labeling and in advertising these products. And so the Humane Society had investigated this for quite some time, and they had purchased products that were advertised as faux or synthetic fur, and in fact, when they tested the products, they were found to be real fur. And in other instances, the labels were incorrect. The labels might say that it was either faux fur or was fur from a wild animal, when in fact the fur came from an Asiatic kind of a dog called raccoon dog, a dog with very thick, nice fur that looks like a raccoon.
Now, is it actually cheaper to use real fur now than faux fur?
I don't know if it's cheaper to use real fur. I think that some consumers are willing to pay more for faux fur, and that's what's being appealed to. But the consumer's being misled, and it's causing quite a problem because the consumer now doesn't know what to think if these retailers are leading them astray.
So this lawsuit is really to protect the consumer and is not really designed necessarily to protect the animals themselves.
Indirectly, it's designed to protect the animals because the whole idea of faux fur is to preserve the lives of these animals. And if the retailers and the producers are trying to pull one over on us, then the whole concept of faux fur, it goes out the window.
Now, what's a raccoon dog again? Let's clarify that. That's not a domestic animal.
That is a dog.
So it's a canine species that kind of looks like a raccoon?
Correct. Yeah, it is a dog. These dogs are born and raised in Asia, in China, and they are, I guess, raised specifically for their fur by Chinese fur producers. And we import about half of the fur into the United States that comes from China. And it's cheaper because labor's cheaper. There's a dearth of environmental laws and lack of animal protection laws. So you've got a wide open field in which to supply these retailers and these producers with very cheap fur. But it's morally and ethically highly questionable.
Would it be reasonable to assume that the retailers themselves will undoubtedly blame the manufacturers, saying, hey, we thought it was faux and they're giving us real fur? Is that something that they're prepared to look at?
Well, I were the attorney representing them, that's what I'd be saying. As to whether they do or don't, that will come out in the course of the litigation. And what the Humane Society is using is a basic consumer protection law, that the consumer has the right to know what the material is and how it was produced, because they're making their buying choices based on the knowledge that they have. And if the advertising is false, if the labels are false, then the consumer is not able to make an informed choice.
Now, how was this discovered? You said that the Humane Society bought samples. Where did they get the information?
The information they were looking online at online advertising, and for example, Neiman Marcus was advertising faux fur. They purchased an item from Neiman Marcus, then had it tested in a laboratory and found out that it was not faux fur. And they did that for each of the retailers and Andrew Marc. So, and they have dozens of examples of false advertising and false labeling.
So the Humane Society contacted the retailers and told them about their findings. Has the retailers responded in any way?
They did not alter their practices. The Humane Society made an extensive effort to contact the retailers to tell them what the findings were, to ask them to please correct the situation, and the retailers failed or refused to do so.
And so now what is the goal of the lawsuit?
The goal of the lawsuit is to enjoin the practice and to penalize the retailers for violating the Consumer Protection Law, as well as the Federal Fur Products Labeling Act and the Federal Trade Commission Act.
And what kind of penalties are there for mislabeling products?
I believe it's $1,500 per violation.
So I guess that would amount to a sizable amount of money, I would assume.
It may, and I would imagine the Humane Society is equally interested in the injunctive relief.
What other things are the Humane Society investigating here? Are there other animals on their watch list for this type of behavior?
Well, the Humane Society has a fur campaign. They are looking at raccoons as well as the raccoon dog, rabbits. The production of fur is a very inhumane practice. If the animals are raised in captivity, oftentimes you have wild animals raised in cramped, filthy conditions, and they're self-mutilating. It's cruel to the animals, both in terms of the rearing methods and the killing methods. The animals are often killed by electrocution in this country. In China, they're killed by beating them about the body and head with sticks, or swinging them around and bashing their heads into the ground. And oftentimes they are skinned while they're still alive. So there's a great deal of cruelty that goes on in the production of fur, regardless of what the species of animal involved is.
Joyce, we appreciate your time. Thanks for talking to us.
You're welcome.
Joyce Tischler is the founder and general counsel of the Animal Legal Defense Fund. We're talking about a lawsuit the Humane Society of the U.S. filed last week against 6 major retailers and fashion designers, alleging they falsely advertise and label fur garments. This is Scott Drake, speaking of justice, and you're watching the Legal Broadcast Network.